Your personal effort must be free from struggle. Murdo MacDonald-Bayne. Struggle always results from reaction to conditions, unfulfilled desires, and circumstances that surround the individual who feels the burden. The individual who is aware of lack, bound by ill health, full of fears, is always struggling against the relative world, and this is the cause of frustration because this struggle is filled with negativeness. This is the error in the mind that is always reproducing itself. But when truth is established, the error disappears. When the mind is filled with negativeness, greater burdens are created. Personal effort must first be experienced until one sees the uselessness of struggle, then the personal effort becomes free from struggle. This is action which does not result from reaction to the relative but from creative thought through understanding. It is action from within oneself. Everything that is seen or felt is mind materialized. The question is, how is mind materialized? And the answer is, by the power of thought. But again, where does thought originate? Thought originates in the consciousness. What the consciousness is aware of is automatically materialized. The next question is the most important one. Where does man's consciousness or creative power originate? It originates in divine mind. It is the moving factor in divine mind and must be the moving factor in human mind, the two being interlocked in the manifestation, for it cannot be otherwise when divine mind fills all space and is all power there is, all knowledge there is. These are profound and important statements and are the foundation of all original thinking. But thinking alone is not sufficient, there must be feeling, for this is the motive power behind thought. When the great fundamental truth is grasped, the consciousness, our spiritual creative power, attracts conditions which correspond to its own recognition of itself, and its recognition of itself must always be the exact reflection of its own dominant thought and feeling. We can see clearly here why Jesus announced forgiveness of sin as the accompaniment of physical healing. By sin, in the sense we have now seen, death and all lesser evils enter into the world, and our belief in this sin is the cause, and all sickness and death is the effect. It follows that if the cause is removed, so will the effect cease. The root of the tree of the belief in the non-existent is cut away, so the fruit must wither. This is the simple working of cause and effect. Therefore the belief in evil, the devil and death have their destruction in the realization of life. For sickness and death of the body result from the imperfect realization of life by the soul and its non-realization of its eternal unity with its divine source. So the logical conclusion we must come to is that the removal of lack, ill health, fear and death is the removal of separation. Thus it will be seen that the ignorance of our eternal unity is our greatest sin. Thy sin is forgiven thee, arise and walk. This I hope will convey to your mind the difference between reaction and pure action. Thus we cast off the burden which separation brings upon us, and we find freedom in our eternal unity. On his return, the prodigal son did not expect forgiveness, but that he could be at least a servant in his father's house, and was willing to take what the father would offer him. But the father saw him a long way off and came to meet him, put his arm around him and kissed him, and not one word of condemnation was uttered. He became the son that was lost and now found, the son that was dead and now alive again, the Son of God born of the Spirit and not subject unto flesh and blood. The greatest antidote to any negation in your mind and body is to become aware of the divine presence always, so that not even for a moment can you at any time hate instead of love, or cease to look upon everything with the eye of the all-embracing truth. Love and pure reason are never in opposition to each other. The result is wisdom or pure action always going out from itself, never relying on or reacting to the external. To arrive at that perfect balanced and poised love, without fear or reaction or struggle, you must go through the attachment of love before you can understand love, and through your experience your growth is attained. To say that you love and have never experienced the surge of this blessed thing, love to you is but an illusion. For if you do not know what individual love is and recognize its limitation, you will never know even a fraction of what the love of God is. When this love is then turned towards the eternal, then there is the beginning of freedom and the gate to happiness is opened. The most practical person in the world is the one who has found true values. That person is poised ready for action without struggle. If you live in your own separate center, you will sooner or later find that the struggle is too great, and you then try to find a way of escape, Only by true discernment of the cause of your struggle will your struggle cease. Then you will begin to realize the presence of wholeness, the eternal. I have told you before that you cannot make an image of the eternal, for the eternal is infinite in nature. But this eternal can be realized, for it itself is love, wisdom, and healing. I have repeatedly told you that mental theories are of no fundamental importance. You only accept those because you want to support your beliefs, and I am not dealing in beliefs or theories but in the practical and actual working of the presence of the omnipotent omnipresence. By applying yourselves in this way, you will find that there is a supreme existence which is not a mere theory. Neither is it a static or a featureless absolute, but a dynamic, complete, and all-embracing presence that is ever expressing itself, and will do so in you when you remove the barriers that hinder its true expression. This must be realized as now existing and not at some future time or beyond. The acceptance of this divine presence is the foundation of your great work in the world today, for is it not you who have been called to do this work? Your development is taking place here and now. I know that some of you are struggling with your burdens, but through your experience you will find that freedom, for you will discern why you are struggling. If you look into your minds, you will see that you have filled it with the non-existence instead of the existence, with the result that you are creating more of the non-existing and less of the true existence, thereby creating greater burdens. The source of our being is the eternal, and as we come to know our Father in heaven, we become aware of the great inner light, for there is no darkness when the inner light begins to shine. The Christ consciousness becomes the outer as well as the inner, knowing that in this, all power and dominion is given. All that is dark disappears because it has no power of its own. By making an image of the divine, you create separation. It is not what it is, but that it is. By putting the divine outside yourself, you will be always looking for the divine in the distance. Reality is here and now. In this realization, your work will never cease but will expand to a more radiant form of beauty of the eternal, which becomes your personal effort in pure action. This glorious truth is not speculative or imaginary, it is actually and eternally true. Try me, says the Eternal, and I will open the door of heaven and pour upon you all good things. For all that I have is thine. Jesus says, cast the net on the right side of the ship and ye shall find. St. John 21:6. Then cast your net on the right side and you shall also find. Benediction. O Divine One, I lost everything while I was roaming in the darkness. At last I saw a glimmer of the light that lights the world, and darkness began to fade away. O Mother of Love, thou didst stir in my heart my remembrance of thee, and as I saw in myself thy likeness, I was freed from all my illusions. O Eternal One, when I gave up my life I found thee, and no longer buried in separation and death, but in thy perfect eternal bliss. I craved for all things but found that I loved thee more. Now I shall abide with thee always, for thou art all there is. My peace and my love remain with you. Yours sincerely, 𝗦 MacDonald-Bayne.